When I first started university, I fell in love with the school hunk Lucas. One day, I was walking through the woods, and I accidentally saw Lucas hugging a girl. When he saw me, he looked panicked and hurriedly explained, "Sophia and I really don't have anything. She's the one who keeps pestering me. She may have a bit of money, but she's no match for you in every other way. We're obviously a couple who like each other. So why is it that I'm the one who keeps pestering him? He doesn't care about having a lot of money, but a lot of people don't think the same way." I turned my head. I glanced at the young man wearing fake designer clothes, who was watching the fun from the sidelines. I asked him, "Would you like to be my boyfriend? The kind who earns 300,000 yuan a month." The next day, I took Ethan to the amusement park. He was wearing a fake Hermes shirt, with fake Balenciaga trousers and fake Nike shoes. It's all fake. It's all fake. Although he's a fake, he does look quite good. Unlike Lucas's fresh and handsome schoolboy style, he gives off an aloof and unapproachable vibe. Ethan looks like a Korean idol. He's so delicate that it's hard to tell his gender. He's perfect with a hint of charm. But I'm already tired of the pure type. Today I want to try the type with a hint of charm. It's all about falling in love anyway. Why should I find someone who is a prude? As soon as he opened his mouth, I felt that this person was quite reliable. "I heard that you want me to be your boyfriend. How can I help?" Although this person knows the rules, I'm not buying it. I can tell at a glance that he probably wants to get something out of me. I ignored him and continued to read the investigation report sent by the private investigator. In a second-tier city, my family's financial situation is average, but it was much better than Lucas' background growing up in an orphanage. However, my academic performance was poor. It was nowhere near as good as Lucas. I glanced up at him. He immediately flashed that professional smile. "She's quite pretty. She's just too good at pleasing people." I frowned. I felt a little uncomfortable. "Have you ever been in love?" Ethan's expression was calm. He didn't feel offended at all. He said, "No, you're my first love." At first I didn't believe it, but after the date, I realized that he really knows how to take care of people. He's a totally considerate boyfriend. "Let's go out again next time," he asked. "No problem." A week passed. I haven't seen Ethan yet. Instead, I met Lucas first. He was wearing a faded white shirt, with some old jeans, and a pair of canvas shoes. He looked neat and tidy. He looked exactly like the typical poor student. He rode a shared bicycle to work. He couldn't even afford to take the bus. I really couldn't understand it. Where did all the pocket money I gave him every month go? Although we weren't in a relationship, it felt more or less the same. When we were in love, I took his pride into consideration, so I was always the one paying. He was usually very cold towards me. He only smiled when I bought him things. I was so young at the time. I had never been in love before. I just looked at his face. I thought that was how boyfriends were. I only realized later that being too nice to a man can hurt you. He came to the training institute to work as a teaching assistant. His image attracted several young girls who asked for his contact details. Lucas politely refused, saying he already had someone he liked. I used to be silly and think he was talking about me. I'm good-looking, from a good family, and I'm committed to relationships. There's no one better in the whole school than me. Everyone has been treating me well since I was little. I never thought that someone wouldn't be interested in me. I went to the training institution. I sat in the lobby, waiting for the teacher to come to class. Lucas didn't notice that I had arrived. At that moment, a girl with a cold temperament pushed the door and walked in. Lucas's gaze was immediately attracted to her. His whole body seemed to be frozen. The girl was wearing an ordinary school uniform, carrying an old school bag, but there was a scholarly air about her every move. Last time I glanced at her in the woods, I didn't get a good look. This time I finally got a good look at her. Before I could think much more, Lucas' face had turned red like a ripe apple. I heard him stammer and ask, "Are you here for class too?" The girl calmly looked at him and said, "No, I'm here to apply for a teaching assistant position." As soon as Lucas heard this, he immediately became very excited. Lucas immediately enthusiastically started to tell me about the situation here. He explained in detail the course schedule, teaching staff and salary of the training institution. He spoke eloquently. He spoke very seriously. He even explained in detail the opportunity for a paid internship. The other students waiting for consultation became impatient. They all left. The girl didn't care about his enthusiasm at all. She went directly to the person in charge. Lucas shouted from behind, "The benefits here are quite good. He is now in this state. It's completely different when he's in front of me. He seems so subservient. It makes me feel bad. I don't feel angry, I just find it quite interesting. Why is he not like this with me? I've always been nice to him. I even give him money to spend. What else does he have to complain about? Suddenly, I understand. I can't help but laugh. He probably feels that I have much more money than him. It hurts his pride. So he has to find some self-confidence with other girls. I can't bear to spend my own money. It's really a case of wanting to save money but also wanting to look respectable. In contrast, rich schoolboys also like to go out with pretty but poor girls. They also rely on spending money to maintain the relationship. However, those girls are usually more devoted, and they are also more grateful. Those rich second-generation rich kids not only have fickle hearts, but they don't look very good either. Someone like me is rare in school, but Lucas doesn't know how to cherish it. I used to like Lucas. I didn't mind spending money on him at all. He took the money, but he never kept his promises. Every time we made a date, he'd say he had to go to tutoring or a part-time job, or that he had a club activity or a competition to attend to. Although I felt uncomfortable, I didn't lose my temper. I even learned from other girls and made him a heartwarming lunchbox. Once, my mom happened to see it. She suspected I was in love and reminded me not to get too involved. My tolerance for Lucas made everyone around me think I was already very much involved. It's funny to think about it. I used to think the same way. Then I went to an internship at the family business. I found it really interesting to work in the business world. After that, I lost interest in relationships. I found it a bit boring. I followed the teacher to the next classroom. When I opened the door, Lucas seemed to glance over here. That night, Ethan was waiting for me at the 3-star Michelin restaurant. What I didn't expect was that, unlike the last time, when he was dressed in the style of a Korean idol, he was dressed very cleanly this time. He was wearing a white shirt with casual trousers and leather shoes. His formerly flamboyant hairstyle had become softer. The whole person looked more refined. This is probably what my assistant taught me. He learned to dress like Lucas. I frowned. Before I could say anything, he leaned over. He leaned in close to my ear. He whispered, "This is more suitable for a date, isn't it?" His breath brushed my earlobe. I took a step back without realizing it. It felt like I was being teased by someone with a lot of experience, until he took an exquisite box out of his suit pocket. Inside was an expensive bracelet. I let out a sigh of relief. Then he said, "Let's eat first. Afterwards, we'll get down to business." I almost couldn't catch my breath when I heard this. He saw the waiter bring the appetizers. He smiled and said, "I've already ordered for you." I could hear the undertone in his words. After a moment of hesitation, I asked, "Are you sure you don't want my help?" Before I could finish my sentence, he interrupted me immediately. "I'll do it tonight," he reassured himself. "It's the first date. I can't let my girlfriend pay. As a boyfriend, I have to act like a capable man." I was silent for a while. He calmly finished his dinner and politely talked to me. I recalled some background information about him. It seemed that his family was better off than I had imagined. I said, "Would you like some more dessert?" Ethan shook his head and said, "Eating too much will affect my performance." I understood. I felt a little funny in my heart. I was even more sure that I had chosen the right person. I should find someone who knows what they're doing. Half an hour later, I regretted it. A strong perfume surrounded me. The original sense of alienation was replaced by enthusiasm. Soon I lost the ability to think. Ethan kept saying sweet things. "You are really the most beautiful woman I have ever seen." Tonight was really great. I felt like I had lowered my status. It was like paying for a nightclub hostess. The price kept falling. It continued until the next morning. I couldn't help but ask him, "Did you eat something special?" "What?" Ethan is a little taken aback. I took some pills to make you feel better." Forget it. He didn't take anything. This is terrible service. He's completely uninterested. This is really not easy. I struggle to get out of bed. I'm still exhausted. I have an important club event in the afternoon. No matter how tired I am, I have to go to school. While getting dressed, can you help me get into show business? I paused in my button tying and couldn't help sighing inwardly. We just met, and you're already making demands. Am I not providing you with sufficient service? He touched his head, a little puzzled. That's not the point after being rejected. Ethan's good-looking celebrity face suddenly lost its spirit. He whined, "Honey, you gave up first. It's really infuriating. I really don't know what to say." If I hadn't run into him by chance on campus, I would have doubted whether he was even a university student. "Wait a minute, are you a student at our university?" I asked tentatively. He shook his head and said, "No, just as I thought." I casually responded, After you graduate, I'll send you to South Korea as a trainee. He looked at me hesitantly. The words on the tip of his tongue were swallowed back. Honey, I don't want to continue studying. I understand. You just want to be an idol, right? I waved my hand, not letting him say any more. It's time to go to the club activities. I got into the car that had been waiting by the curb. I finally looked back. I found him leaning over the balcony. He kept waving at me. His black hair was a bit messy, but his face was exquisitely stunning. The sun shone on him, like the male lead in a Korean drama. And he's wearing my pajamas. You're amazing. My dear, don't forget to come home early. I rubbed my temples, a little helpless, and looked at his appearance. I told the driver to go to the mall and buy some sportswear. His sunny and energetic style suits him. I can't let him wear those cheap and shoddy clothes. It looks too unrefined. The driver nodded in agreement. After dropping me off at my destination, he immediately turned around and drove to the business district. The club activity had ended successfully. I was exhausted. I collapsed on the sofa in the lounge. Normally, I don't feel this tired, but today I was exceptionally tired. Maybe it was because I didn't sleep well last night. Our family is similar to those wealthy families. My parents got together through a business marriage. They don't care about each other. After giving birth to my not-so-intelligent brother and me, they felt they had fulfilled their responsibilities. They then went on to live their own lives. Ever since I was little, the love I saw in my parents was all I had. I don't think true love exists. Only real money matters. Therefore, I have always tried to become better, with the goal of becoming the heir to the group. After my brother was sent abroad for making a mistake, I was only one step away from my goal. But is this really the life I want, dear? I've brought you a heart-shaped lunchbox. My thoughts were suddenly interrupted. At that moment, the door to the lounge opened. Ethan walked in, holding a beautiful lunchbox in his hands. Why are you here? He smiled and sat down next to me. He opened the lunchbox. These are all your favorite dishes. I learned how to cook them specially. I saw the gentle smile on his face. My heart felt a little uneasy. His face showed an expression of expectation. There was a hint of shyness in his eyes. I felt that as your boyfriend, I should take good care of you. I read online that someone said, you should pay more attention to your girlfriend's daily life. He is quite attentive. He saw that I didn't respond. He introduced his cooking more actively. It's sunny. I didn't know what to say for a while. He is really trying to be a good boyfriend. In the evening, I returned to the luxurious apartment at home, just wanted to rest. The housekeeper came to tell me, Miss, Mr. Lucas is waiting for you downstairs. That's unusual. We had agreed to meet today. It's not surprising that he's here, but he's always a no-show. It's almost 10 o'clock. I'm about to pour myself a glass of wine when the butler continues. He insists on seeing you. He says it's important. He's waiting in the lobby. I frown. I'm about to say something when Ethan suddenly pokes his head out of the kitchen. Honey, come have some warm milk. I just heated it up. I could see that he was concerned. He waved the butler away. You go back and rest. I still have some things to do. He nodded obediently and walked away. Lucas was invited in. He was still wearing the simple white shirt and jeans. I felt a little bored just looking at him. He stood straight and said to me, Sophia, I was fired from the training institution. He is convinced that I was behind it. The training institute did have a collaboration with my family. He worked there as a teaching assistant. He earned 100,000 yuan a month, and I raised my eyebrows slightly. His face immediately turned ugly. He stood straight. His hands were clenched into fists. His tone of voice became more and more agitated. Did someone say something to you? Olivia is just a classmate of mine. I have always worked hard. You have no right to fire me for no reason. You rich people, always looking down on others. How about this? I'll ask the company to rehire you. I interrupted him. He stopped accusing me all of a sudden. Obviously, he didn't expect me to be so decisive. This is for the best. I smiled. According to the standards of an ordinary teaching assistant, the monthly salary is 2,000. What do you think? His eyes widened. It seemed like he was greatly offended. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, Sophia, don't play these games. I've made it very clear. There is no relationship between Olivia and I. A hint of impatience appeared in his eyes. I looked him over carefully. Suddenly, I felt that he was quite different from Ethan. His skin was not as white as Ethan's. His eyes were not as deep as Ethan's. His lips were not as good-looking as Ethan's. His figure was not as well-proportioned as Ethan's. He's not as graceful as Ethan when they dance. His singing is also mediocre. Olivia, that name sounds quite refreshing. I casually said, Lucas immediately became nervous. He said, "Don't make things difficult for her. We're just ordinary classmates." I couldn't help but laugh. I deliberately asked him, "What do you think I'm going to do to her?" Suddenly, Lucas's gaze stopped somewhere. His expression suddenly froze. His eyes also became vacant. He couldn't even speak. I followed his gaze to the luxurious sofa. A pair of men's underwear was quietly sitting there, listening to us in silence. Everyone knows, when people are in a particularly embarrassing situation, they will laugh instead. Lucas slowly turned his gaze to me. Then, he noticed a trace of ridicule at the corner of my mouth. The person who had deliberately kept his distance just now suddenly rushed to my front. "Sophia, are you that lonely? Just because I haven't come to see you for a week, and you go to another man?" I wanted to say, "You can find other women, but I can't find other men. What kind of logic is that?" But I didn't say it. I didn't think it was necessary anymore. Lucas, the usually arrogant school idol, was now blushing. "Don't you feel dirty?" Lucas shouted. He grabbed my wrist. I've never been so excited. It seemed like he was really worried that I would get sick. The coffee cup fell from the coffee table to the floor. It spilled all over the floor. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. The butler asked, "Miss, do you want me to come in and help?" Lucas was still speaking emotionally. "Sophia, you don't have to deliberately make me jealous." I raised my voice. "Come in." The butler led 2 security guards in. The security guards immediately pulled Lucas and me apart. They gathered around Lucas to prevent him from doing something impulsive. Lucas stared at me in surprise. I sneered. Turning my gaze to Lucas, I said, "Who do you think you are to tell me what to do?" I may have been too indulgent with him in the past, allowing him to take advantage of me. Lucas' face suddenly turned pale. He never expected me to ask him such a question. He pursed his lips. He said, "You are my girlfriend," I sneered. "Girlfriend when you get close to other girls. Do you still remember that you have a girlfriend?" Lucas was at a loss for words. I raised my eyebrows and said, "Since you're my boyfriend, you should act like one. Are you doing that?" It seemed like he had never heard me speak to him like this before. He froze for a moment and couldn't say a word. I ignored him and went straight back to my room. Lucas tried to follow me, but was stopped by the security guard. I walked really fast. The butler said to Lucas from behind, "Mr. Lucas, don't just barge into people's homes in the future. Ethan is quite straightforward. He thinks it's normal for couples to live together." So without saying a word, he moved into my big house. 1 month later, I was lying on the sofa playing with my phone. At that moment, Ethan came over with a plate of fruit. I said, "I'll help you find an opportunity to work as a trainee." But Ethan was uncharacteristically unhappy this time. He gently stroked my hair. I subconsciously cringed. "Thank you, baby." Although I was anxious, I said, "Don't worry, I want to spend more time with you, baby. I can't hold on much longer." A month ago, he was full of expectations for his debut. That day, as promised, I was going to transfer 300,000 yuan to him as monthly pocket money. Ethan shook his head. He refused. She said, "Honey, I don't need money. I just want you to help me make my debut. This boy is very smart. He knows how to seize opportunities. He's lucky. He met me. The entertainment industry is a complicated circle. Even if you are a rich second-generation entrepreneur or a real estate developer, you may not be able to get involved. However, Johnson Group has long since started to lay out in the cultural and entertainment industry. Their agency is one of the 3 giants in the industry. The first company I managed was this talent agency." I said calmly. "It depends on your sincerity. I regret it now. I didn't hold my phone steady just now. It almost fell to the ground. When I reached out to pick it up, the blanket on me slipped down. Ethan suddenly embraced me from behind. "Baby," he whispered in my ear. The heat of his breath made me feel weak. I pushed him away immediately. He looked at me with a face full of grievances, like a big dog that's been left behind. I smile awkwardly, quickly changed the subject. "Don't you have something to do? He's been staying with me for a whole month. Either he's at the gym dancing, or in the recording studio practicing his songs." I was going to ask him why he wasn't going to class, but then I thought, he doesn't seem to be studying. I pondered for a while and found a reasonable explanation. Ethan smiles and squeezes my face and said, "Baby, don't worry. I'm in perfect health. Shouldn't you get a full body checkup soon? Why don't we go together?" While he was talking, he put his hand on my waist and moved it around. I immediately pushed his hand away. I finally figured it out. "Okay, I believe you're healthy." He's now tasted the sweetness. He's not in a hurry to debut. He's now more eager to win me over. No way. Recently, my assistant has been looking at me differently. Her expression clearly says, Miss, you really need to control yourself. I patted Ethan's back gently. Say, I'll take you to meet a music producer tomorrow. The next day arrived. I introduced Ethan to a famous musician. Producer Michael said politely, Miss Sophia recommended this person. I will definitely cultivate him with all my heart. What year are you in college now? Ethan replied. I've already graduated. You graduated? I raised my eyebrows in surprise. You're not that young, are you? Ethan winked at me and said with a smile, I'm not that young either. Just right for you, me. You're so sweet. Ethan sang a song on the spot. Producer Michael picked a lyrical song for him. It's about a secret crush. He has to sing the feeling of being moved, sing about obsession. The lyrics are still being adjusted. Ethan is being given free rein for now. I sit back and listen to him sing. Ethan stands in the recording studio. The producer shouts action. Ethan immediately puts on a different face from his usual casual expression. His bright eyes focus on me. He swallows softly. His long fingers hold the microphone. He starts to sing deeply. Our eyes meet. His gaze was soft. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. There was a hint of a smile. Why do you keep staring at other people? Is there something wrong with me? I just listened silently, but Ethan seemed to have guessed that I would refuse. His expression was bleak. He hummed in a low voice. I know you better than you know yourself. He looked at me with deep affection in his eyes. His tone was gentle. I want to treasure you. His eyes revealed a strong sense of possessiveness. Producer Michael commented, Ethan's singing seems a bit contrived. This doesn't sound like a secret crush. It's more like obsession. However, his vocal condition is excellent. This minor flaw does not affect the overall effect. The day before the album recording, he stayed in front of my house. He wouldn't leave. Honey, I want to sincerely thank you. I said, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Let me make music. He replied, if you really want to thank me, don't bother me tonight. Ethan said sweetly, I'm leaving for Seoul tomorrow. I'll be training there for 3 months. I won't be able to see you. He refused to leave. I pretended not to hear. Finally, it got quiet outside the door. In the evening, I pushed open the door. Ethan was leaning against the frame. He almost fell into the room. He quickly came to his senses. Before I knew it, slipped quickly into the room. In the blink of an eye, he was already lying in my bed. Honey, I promise I'll just keep you company and talk. I won't do anything else. He sighed. Giving up. I thought he would try to pull something, but he was actually very obedient. Early the next morning, the agent came to pick up Ethan and take him to the airport. Before leaving, he quietly took my hairband. I was worried that he might try something, but I saw him quietly put my hair tie into his pocket. I looked at him dazedly. Ethan gave me a light kiss on my forehead. Honey, remember to visit me. I didn't respond. I just rolled over and continued to sleep. Half a month later, I received a gift from Ethan. During this time, I never visited him. I answered the video call a few times, but at that time, I was busy writing my thesis. I also had to deal with company matters, so I hung up after a minute. The gift he sent was a hand-knitted scarf. The stitches were a bit crooked. It was obvious that it was the work of a novice. There were even a few missed stitches. It was the first time I had received a gift from my boyfriend. Lucas had never bought me anything before. On Valentine's Day, I mentioned this to him. We were wandering around the campus. I bought Lucas a new model of mobile phone. Then I half-jokingly asked, have you got a present for me? Lucas said, you don't need anything. You don't need a present from me. When he said that, he sounded really upset. The monitor told him Lucas' mother had been to the school a few days earlier and demanded that he give up his guaranteed place at university and start working to earn money. I understood his pressure, so I didn't mind his attitude. The scarf was soft and warm, just like Ethan's embrace. My thoughts returned to the present. This scarf is not very skillfully knitted, but it is very warm, just like the feeling Ethan gives me. It is wrapped around my neck. That warmth makes a pang of guilt well up in my heart. I am regretting not visiting him. While I am torn between going or not going, Lucas calls me. This is quite unexpected. Unlike Ethan, who is in frequent contact every day, Lucas rarely takes the initiative to find me. After the call is connected, I remain silent. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Lucas probably didn't think I would speak first. Finally, he spoke. I got your apology. Let's make up. I was a little confused. I looked at the calendar on my phone. Then I realized, today was Lucas' birthday. The custom-made suit should have arrived. Let's go see a movie. Lucas' voice was full of anticipation. There's a new art film that just came out. I heard it's pretty good. I interrupt him. I forgot to ask my assistant to cancel the order. What? I say. The suit. Consider it a parting gift. Last time I saw Lucas, my mind was a mess. I forgot to make that clear. I don't have the energy to play this game of give and take with him. And being with him, I'm not that happy. What a waste of time. I've always been generous. I don't take back what I've given away. This time I've learned my lesson. Next time I chase someone, I'll know when to stop. You're too generous. You make people forget who they are. Lucas doesn't seem to understand. Sophia, are you still angry about that? Or is that boy still causing trouble? Let me tell you, he's after your family's money. It just occurred to me, the knit pattern on that scarf. It's my favorite style. Did he knit it in that pattern? I picked up the scarf. I looked at it more closely. The stitches were uneven. The edges were not even. But it was interesting. Lucas kept talking. I didn't listen at all. After the call, I called in sick from school. I was going to Korea to visit the band. I took a private jet to Seoul. The nanny car took me to the practice room. It was just in time. Ethan was rehearsing dance moves with the trainee girl. He moved with such ease. His expression was just right. The trainee girl looked like a newcomer from a talent show. She faced Ethan's face. She missed the moves 3 times in a row. Her face turned red. She didn't dare look up at him. Ethan patiently guided her. He taught her the key to the moves step by step. The staff members nearby whispered in admiration. They were in perfect harmony. Ethan turned around and saw me. To be honest, Ethan's dance skills are really good. The modern dance moves he performed were smooth and natural. Just like when he played my boyfriend, there were no flaws. Things were exactly as I had expected. Ethan took me into his dressing room. Soon, I felt my breathing become difficult. When he rushed to get close, I pushed him away. Baby, don't you miss me? I felt a little helpless. Being too forward is sometimes not a good thing. It lacks that sense of subtlety. Ethan noticed my mood. He sat down next to me a little aggrieved. You haven't visited for so long. He complained in a petulant tone. She carried a hint of grievance and a little petulance, but it was more of an act. How long have you been here? I said, just in time to see the part where you two dance together. Ethan became nervous all of a sudden. Honey, don't worry. It's all work. I've canceled all my personal engagements. My agent can prove it. I stroked his face gently and asked lazily, you have anything to do after this? Ethan responded immediately. I've already asked the choreographer to adjust the rehearsal time. He's learned to put on airs so quickly. I can already see his future as uneventful, but full of trouble. Ethan asked softly, how about, I'll go shopping with you, he said, while gently massaging me. Then he asked, shall we go for a cup of coffee first? Take a break. Ethan and I went to the cafe like an ordinary couple. The assistant booked the whole cafe. Then we went shopping in the mall. The bodyguards followed us from a distance. We played pool for a while. Then we went back to the hotel. Ethan helped me take off my makeup, and he gave me a bath. This is where a relationship based on money is advantageous over one based on love. I can show my true self without any inhibitions. I can be angry if I want to. I don't have to consider anyone else's feelings. Ethan gently put his arms around my waist. My love, let's. I closed my eyes. I don't want to talk about this now. Ethan nuzzled my neck. Just once, okay? It's been more than 10 days. I really missed you. His words made me feel sleepy. I suddenly woke up dazed. We were just like any ordinary couple. This is not good. Next time I have to make him suffer a bit. The audition show Dream Voice, in which Ethan participated, was broadcast. However, the ratings were very low. Ethan suddenly became popular. This result surprised me. His schedule suddenly became full. Marketing activities followed one after another. Variety shows also followed one after another. Fans see his handsome appearance. They call him a Korean idol. Ethan has a clean face, but he tends to dress in a mature style. He wears a shirt with a blazer. He wears a turtleneck and a coat over it. His management team has created an image for him. It tells the inspiring story of a rich second generation pursuing his dreams. So far, no high school friends, college friends, or friends from karaoke sessions have come forward to tell their stories. I asked my assistant to be on standby in case of a possible PR crisis. After class, I ran into Lucas. I took a closer look at him. It was clear that this was no coincidence. Lucas looked a little tired. His eyes were soft. He spoke softly. Sophia, I can't stop thinking about you these past few months. His ears turned red when he said this. I knew exactly what was going on. I leafed through the research I had done. Olivia was Lucas's clubmate. They both loved writing. They often participated in literary club activities together. Olivia always asked Lucas to help her revise her articles. Gradually, the two became close friends who could talk about anything. However, their relationship stopped there. Until Valentine's Day last year, Olivia suddenly felt differently about Lucas. She didn't just give money directly like I did. Olivia knew a lot about courtship techniques. My assistant told me. She even took a relationship psychology class. She deliberately acted aloof. She only has eyes for Lucas. Lucas is smitten. He thinks they were made for each other. I don't understand why Olivia is suddenly so keen on Lucas. That is, until I notice what Lucas is wearing. I picked out all of it. Designer clothes. Olivia's investment really is paying off. Lucas has money to buy her gifts. With my money. Hearing this, I can't help but laugh. When he's around, I'm used to all these fancy things. But he always criticized it as a corrupt product of capitalism. It's vanity. I gave him the things. He can do whatever he wants with them. But then I found out what he did with them. I still feel a little helpless. Now, Lucas is standing in front of me. He looks much more haggard than before. There are obvious dark circles under his eyes. His hair is also messy. He has completely lost the appearance of the previous aloof academic. What was it that I liked about him in the first place? I thought about it carefully. Maybe it was because I was so young at the time. I was immature. When we were dating, I always paid the bills. He didn't seem to like it very much. Now, he no longer has the money that he used to look down on. He feels uncomfortable. That's when he remembered me. Things are just that simple. I gave a small smile. I said, "You didn't miss me. You missed my money." A hint of grievance appeared in Lucas's eyes. He said, "Sophia, you're being a bit hurtful. At the beginning, it wasn't you who took the initiative to find me and said you wanted to be with me. You were the one who insisted on spending money on me." I raised my eyebrows slightly. "Do you want me to apologize?" Lucas suddenly felt as if he had been strangled. His eyes widened. His voice stopped suddenly. He stared at me blankly. It took a long time before he could force a wry smile. "Sophia, do you understand? It's just me. I didn't get close to you for your money." Before Lucas left, he threw a photo in front of me. On the photo, Ethan was walking into a 5-star hotel with a girl wearing designer clothes. I asked my assistant to send Lucas a message, saying I was willing to pay $100,000 for the photo. Lucas replied, "Why are you helping him hide it?" I cut a piece of steak into my mouth and took another sip of red wine. I ignored him. I knew exactly what kind of person Ethan was. We were just in a relationship of economic dependence. He took good care of me. I didn't care about his past, but Lucas couldn't accept it at all. He deleted his assistant's contact information directly. As a result, the next day, the photo was posted on the school forum. The news quickly spread around the school. Ethan had just participated in a talent show and made a successful debut. However, according to his fans, he had offended many seniors for some reason, affecting their resources. Once negative news appeared, a lot of critics would quickly gather. When Ethan came back, I was cooking pasta. The tomato sauce in the pot was sizzling. The sound of the range hood was not loud. The smell of the sauce is very attractive. The aroma of tomatoes and basil wafts into my nose. Ethan obviously knows he's done something wrong. He puts his arms around me from behind, leaning his chin on my shoulder like a big dog. "Honey, you've seen those photos, right?" My heart suddenly stops beating. I was wondering if the photos were fake. But my assistant checked. The photos really haven't been retouched. She checked the sender. It was sent anonymously to Lucas, but Ethan told me. I was his first love, and he was quite shy the first time. The assistant also briefly looked into his background. After Ethan came, he really only had a relationship with me. So I actually don't believe it. It's probably just a misunderstanding. Until this moment, Ethan said with some unease, "Honey, I've been meaning to tell you something. It turns out it's all true. He really did cheat on me. I wasn't his first girlfriend." I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. "Let's eat first." I broke free from Ethan's embrace. He stood where he was, his arms still in a hugging position. "Sophia, are you angry?" I whispered. No. Ethan looked at me. His eyes suddenly became dull and lifeless. He froze in place. "Sophia, what did you say?" I answered while stirring the pasta in front of me. "Those comments on the internet. I've already asked my assistant to deal with them." I'd just taken 2 bites of the pasta. Ethan suddenly picked me up in his arms. The food in my stomach almost came up. "Sophia, how can you say that's disgusting? How can you do that?" His voice was a little choked up, but his actions were firm and carried me straight upstairs. He said, I'm not like the others. I never get involved with other women. They come to me, I just say no. Ethan, I stopped him sharply, put me down. Ethan stood still. He said, I don't want to have to say it again. Ethan was silent for a moment, gently put me down on the edge of the bed. I stared at him coldly. He got down on one knee, took my hand gently. In a sincere tone, Sophia, give me another chance. His gaze is sincere. His tone is low, I'm sure. Once we're separated, he'll quickly find another girl from a privileged family. Sophia, I've changed as you've asked. I go to the gym every day, and I've learned how to mix drinks. He stands up and starts unbuttoning his shirt. I push him away a little irritably and say, I'm still eating. I suppressed my resentment and said, I'm hungry. Ethan sighed, reluctantly leaning against the wall, and said, okay, I'll wait here for you. I went downstairs to eat alone. The pasta tasted bland today, even though it was made with the freshest ingredients. I always felt uncomfortable about this. I remembered how Lucas had stood me up before. I never cared, because I was busy too today. I really couldn't hold back my anger. In the past, I always turned a blind eye to Lucas, but now I'm facing Ethan. Can I continue to do the same? At this moment, my cousin Emily suddenly messaged me. She sent several voice messages in a row. It sounded really urgent. My father arranged a blind date for me. Sophia, I don't want to marry a rich second generation that I don't even know. I don't want to live a life with only money and no emotions. I don't want to marry into a wealthy family and lose my own personality, living like a mindless puppet. I don't want to reply to the message. My phone kept ringing. One long voice message after another was sent. I didn't listen to anything. It was almost 10 o'clock. I returned to the bedroom. Ethan was sitting on the sofa in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. He was head down. His shoulders were shaking slightly. I got closer and realized his hands were covering his face. His whole body was trembling slightly. When he looked up at me, his eyes were red. The stubble on his chin made him look a little tired. Despite this, his face, which had charmed so many girls, was still handsome. I reached out and gently stroked his hair. He immediately wrapped his arms around my waist. It was as if he had grabbed hold of something to save him. I pushed his face away. I didn't let him get too close. He still insisted on kissing me. His hands started to get restless. He was feeling me up. He whispered sorry and tried to make amends awkwardly. The next day at dawn, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the cityscape 30 floors below. It was still dark. You could see the neon lights in the distance. The intermittent sound of traffic came from downstairs. Sophia, I turned my head and looked. He was still asleep and murmured Sophia in his sleep. I went closer and said, sorry, I was silent. There was no response. When I went to the gym, I didn't hear him whisper again. I love you. 30 days later, I just got home. The housekeeper came in, Miss Ethan. I'm a little upset. Didn't you take back his access card? The housekeeper said helplessly. It's been taken away, but it seems he made a few copies. Tell security to escort him out. He was almost at the door when I felt a sharp headache. Then, Ethan pushed open the door and walked in. If it weren't for his pale face, the way he walked with a few steps would have been quite imposing. He was wearing a carefully selected suit, his hair neatly combed, and his beard cleanly shaven. Before he could say a word, I asked in a dissatisfied tone, do you think the breakup fee is not enough? Ethan smiled and said, Sophia, what kind of person do you think I am? I didn't say anything. What exactly did I do wrong? Where exactly I couldn't tell. That morning, I had just returned from the gym. Ethan was still dazed and wanted to kiss me. I directly proposed to break up. Ethan immediately came to his senses and asked, Sophia, did I not do well enough last night? I calmly said, I don't have feelings for you anymore. Ethan froze for a moment. She had been holding my finger like a child, but suddenly let go. I was in a hurry to go to class, so I left. Later, Ethan came to see me a few times. I knew he was not convinced. He asked me why. It was just a morning thing. After the workout, I suddenly lost the motivation to continue. In matters of the heart, why look for so many reasons? Even if you truly love each other, sometimes you suddenly part ways. I just want to find someone else. I looked up at the person in front of me. He looked really good. He looked even more attractive after dressing up, just like the male lead in a TV drama. I didn't want to make things too awkward. Ethan, I chose you in the first place because you are more sensible than Lucas. After I finished speaking, Ethan was silent for a moment. Then he said, you're a sensible person. Take the money and go. Let's part on good terms. What if I don't agree? Ethan suddenly leaned in towards me. I could smell his usual citrus perfume. The air was fresh. The smell was pleasant. I restrained myself. I didn't inhale. He suddenly leaned in to kiss me. I pushed him away immediately. I asked, "Who told you to do that?" "Ethan, you need to understand your place." Ethan laughed when he heard this. He laughed and kissed me again. Our lips and teeth were pressed together. Our breaths mingled after the kiss. He turned around and walked away. I sat there in a daze. Emily brought her junior to my apartment. She said, "He's not interning right now, but he's really good. It's hard to find a job right now, so I can't blame him. He's busy preparing for the postgraduate entrance exam." Then, they were sometimes sweet and sometimes fought in my apartment. Yes, this is the boy. He's even unfaithful. Emily beat and scolded him. "This seat can only be taken by me. Can't you see what your schoolmate is up to?" In the end, they made up. I smiled. A few days later, they broke up again. Emily cried bitterly. She said, "This time it's really over. I don't believe it, really. This time it's for real." I saw him with another girl, hugging and kissing. I didn't say anything. "Sis, I'm going on a blind date." I put down my phone. I'm a little puzzled. "Your blind date won't just kiss other girls. He'll have intimate relations with them. Can you handle it?" Emily nods immediately, without hesitation. She says, "I can handle it. I don't like him anyway, sis." "You spilled your milk tea, sis. Are you okay?" I came back to my senses. The milk tea had accidentally spilled on the scarf that wasn't very well knitted. That night, I saw online about Ethan's scandal with a rising actress. In the photo, they walked into the practice room together. I turned off my phone. I didn't want to see any more. I had figured it out. Why I could accept Lucas being close to other girls, but I couldn't stand Ethan having other women. Why I don't want to continue with Ethan. It's because I'm really in love with him. What's the point of knowing this? He treats me like a gold digger, but I treat him like the one. Say it, it's really laughable. I, Sophia, don't want to lose face. Emily came back after contacting her mother. She didn't look well. Really, the person my mother arranged for me to meet. Just by hearing about him, he seems like a fun person. He just graduated from college. He doesn't want to take over the family business. Instead, he wants to pursue his dreams as a trainee. His family doesn't support him. He's even found a rich woman to take care of him. I'm actually going to marry someone like this. The Johnson family mainly develops overseas. Their domestic industries are not in this city either. I don't know much about the Johnson family. This arrangement makes me feel a bit puzzled. The previous blind date wasn't from the Johnson family. The next day, I accompanied Emily to the blind date in a fancy cafe. I met Ethan. He was accompanied by a well-dressed woman. The matchmaker told me, "This is Miss Emily and her younger brother, Ethan." My expression froze. Emily's eyes lit up. Her face flushed slightly. She gently tugged at the corner of my shirt. "Isn't this the winner of a talent contest, HMPH? Just as I expected. He's so handsome. He must be a playboy. Sophia, Sophia, why did you leave?" I turned around and left. I said, "I'm going to the bathroom." When I came back, Emily and Ethan were having a lively conversation. The matchmaker and Miss Emily had already left. Emily said to me with a beaming face, "Sister, Ethan is a really nice guy." She said to Ethan, "This is my best sister. You can call her that too." Ethan smiled politely and said, "Hello, sister. Hello, sister." I felt a pang of sadness. I went to the bathroom again. Through the mirror, I saw a familiar figure. Ethan walked over slowly. He was wearing a turtleneck today. He looked very casual. The silver earrings in his ears sparkled. She looked very well-dressed, like a rich girl, but she deliberately dressed very plainly. "Honey, it's been a long time. I'm going to marry your sister. Are you happy?" I didn't want to answer as I walked past him. Ethan suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Honey, why don't you answer?" I suppressed my anger. I asked, "What do you want me to say?" Ethan smiled and continued, "I pretended to be a good boyfriend. Not bad. A good and obedient partner." I sneered. "You're really good at acting. Is it because I'm so involved made you feel like you could leave me at any time?" He narrowed his slender eyes slightly. His fingers gently slid over my wrist. That familiar touch made my heart beat faster involuntarily, just when I was about to lose control. He took a step back and said, "Baby, remember to call me brother-in-law in the future." The bathroom fragrance made me feel a little dizzy. I glanced at Ethan and said directly, "No need to wait for the future. I can call you brother-in-law now." Ethan's expression was calm but a little gloomy. His jaw was tensed. Just as I turned to leave, someone pulled me into his arms. Ethan kissed my neck gently and whispered, "Don't think too much. I actually don't care about you. Brother-in-law, you're hurting me a little." Ethan's body suddenly stiffened. Then he kissed me harder. I pushed him away hard. Ethan grabbed my waist tightly. He said, "Do you really think I can't live without you? I just want you to experience what it feels like to be teased. You think I would still have a good impression of you now?" My phone accidentally fell from my pocket to the ground. Just then, Emily sent a voice message. "Sophia, I'll go first. I won't disturb the two of you. Ethan said he would chase you back. He also asked me to keep it a secret. Don't tell anyone I told you." Ethan suddenly stopped pushing down on me. He looked a little embarrassed. I glanced at Ethan. His ears were red. After a while, he reluctantly leaned closer to me and kissed me softly. "Sophia, don't leave me." I had to nod my head in agreement. "Whatever you say, he wouldn't do anything too extreme anyway." Ethan smiled and said meaningfully, "Sophia, I bought a house next to yours." After that, I stayed at his house and never went out again.